tying a simple gold head woolly bugger. The hook in the vise is an Osprey nymph hook. It's a size 10. It's a slightly long shank hook. It's not a terribly long shank, but the nice thing about it is it has a round bend. The bead I'm going to put on it is fairly small. It's a Vineyard small. Which goes on nice and easily around that bend, and I've put it on cup side first. So if I take it up to the eye, even with that pressed against the shoulder of the eye, the ring of the eye, it's still clear. I can still thread a leader through it. Now, the reason I do it this way is it gives me a smaller hole there, so that I can press the thread against that and fix the bead in place more easily. Next job is to attach the thread. I'm using an olive thread to match the dressing of the materials on the fly. What I want is a ramp, a cone of thread there that's gonna trap the bead, and the turns as I come up the ramp, I'm angling the thread so it's actually running down off the bead onto the pile there. And I should get to a point where I'm at now. I can press that bead as hard as I like and it's going nowhere. It can't move. I'm using copper wire. You can use gold, silver, whatever you like. I'm not tying in touching tars because this is going to be covered in chenille, and I'll be coming up and down the shank a few times. I'm going to take a section from there. I'm going to pull off the stem. The ends are cluttered with bits of stem, so I'll trim that. I like to thin the bunch. I wet my fingers and I take my thumbnail through there, and it pulls away some of the fluff. It doesn't break the stems of the barbs, but it pulls away some fluff. Just thins it down a bit. That's ready. That tail's ready to go in. I'm going to tie it in the length of the body, and I'm going to stop it just before that angle, that bump. So take my thread back to about there, put the bunch on top and loose loop, fix it in position, and just run the thread back. I'm keeping the bunch up at an angle so that it stays on top of the hook shank. That's the way I like to tie it. And we're back at the back of the body. Okay. The body material for this fly is chenille. Clean some of the fibres away so you expose the core. And the idea is that we're only trapping in the core so that it doesn't build up any bulk. You don't have a great bulge, a great bump at the back of the fly. Tough stuff, so make sure it's well tied in. Marabou tends to get a bit wrapped around everything. It's a bit of spit settles it down. Bring your thread forward. Fill in any dents with a bit of thread. So I'm building up to have a nice, smooth enough underbody. The chenille will hide an awful lot of nonsense, but you don't want to have too weird an underbody. I prefer to wrap, because chenille can fall apart, the fibres can come off that core. I prefer to attach a pair of hackle pliers and use those to help me wrap this. I'm going to wrap in sort of butting turns. They're not I'm not trying to force the core. I'm not trying to force each turn of core against the previous one, but I want the body to be covered. So now when I get to this point, I could probably squeeze 2 turns in there, but I want to leave enough space for the hackle to be tied on neatly at the head. So I'm going to put it to there, take it to there, take a couple of turns of thread behind the bead. And then cut the... A tip here is you'll see, if you watch experienced fly tyers, they all, when they come under the thread or when they go up to cut things, they do that. Now, what I'm doing is that the thread's being pushed out of the way with my finger, and I'm less likely to cut this now. It's not a guarantee, but it's harder, and it's protecting the thread from your scissors. So I've got the material taut and the chenille's cut off. This is my red game cape again. I've taken a feather from the rear portion of the cape, and what I'm looking for is the barbs should be long enough so that they're even the shortest barbs that I'm going to use when I wrap the hackle are going to be longer than that cape. I want to use some of the softer, fluffier fibres at the near the base of the hackle. So I'm going to clear away up to there. Get tied in. It's not moving, so that's probably enough turns. You can be fairly firm with a hackle like this, because the stem is strong enough, it's supple enough. It's worth testing because you don't want to get everything going and then have the hackle break. Hackle pliers. This is a long enough stem, long enough feather that I can manipulate it with my fingers, or I can use hackle pliers. I'll attach hackle pliers, but do most of the work with my fingers. I'm going to take one full turn going towards the bead on that thread base. That gives me a nice narrow band where I'm going to tie off the wire when I come back to the rib. So I've gone one turn that way, and I'm going to angle the hackle back. This is called palmering. And then in open turns, I'm going to open even turns. I'm going to wrap this back to the back of the body of the fly. And I'll get to a point there. And now I'm holding this up at an angle so that it's still constant, and I've got the wire coming up crossing it, and that's what holds the hackle in. That traps the hackle. And then each successive turn of wire, hopefully more even than I've just made that one, traps a turn of hackle. So it's important that this goes in the opposite spiral to the hackle. Now I've come to the bead. I'm going to bring that, wiggle that through the collar there, and it's ready for the thread. ploughing back out of the way. And I want tight turns. I'm going to break the wire off, so I want tight turns. I like to fold the wire to make damn sure it can't come out. And then just wind the wire like a wee crank. It soon breaks. Cut off the stem, the tip, the back of the fly. Excuse me while I get rid of these barbs. Now, the bead is really the head of this fly. I'm looking for a collar here, a thread that ties off the materials of the fly, but I want that collar to be narrower than the head. If this collar of thread is getting to the size of the head, it's too wide, in my opinion. This will go out of focus if I turn it to do the whole thing, but that's the final stage, is to varnish the thread, and hopefully. And that's it. A simple cold head woolly bugger.